This is Daily Politics on Trust TV. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you most kindly for joining us. Tonight on the program, the pressure is continuing to build inside the Africa Democratic Congress ADC as the party moves towards its June National Convention. Supporters of Atiku Abubakar and loyalists of Peter Obi, also known as Obedients, are locked in what seems to be a quiet struggle over who should carry the coalition's 2027 presidential candidates. The contest is shaping the future of the opposition and testing unity within the alliance, aiming to challenge the All Progressives Congress in 2027. On all sides, the leaders are calling for a calming down of the situation. However, you get the sense that this is only the calm before the big storm. We'll be speaking with Dapo Adaramewa, a chieftain of the Obidients Movement, who will be joining the conversation virtually from Lagos to help us understand their side of the argument, especially around the conversations pushed by the Obedients, where they say it's Obi or nothing. What does that mean for the coalition, and how is that supposed to be interpreted by the party as well as supporters on all the sides of the equation? But first, let's bring you up to speed with the latest developments in the polity.
A federal high court in Abuja has allowed former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello to travel to Saudi Arabia for the 2026 Lesser Hajj. Justice Emeka Anwite ordered a temporary release of his international passport for the trip. Bello is currently on trial over alleged 80.2 billion naira money laundering charges filed by the EFCC, which he denies. Former Ekiti State Governor Kaide Fayemi has dismissed reports that he held a private meeting with Rabiu Kwankwaso in Abuja. In a statement from his media office, Fayemi described the claim as false and said the two only met once in the past year, not in any political setting. The report had circulated on social media with an old video clip. The Senate has set up a 7-member ad hoc committee to harmonize lawmakers' contributions on the proposed amendment of the Electoral Act. The move followed a closed-door session where senators reviewed the bill. Senate President Godswill Akpabio said the panel will refine senators' views and address key concerns ahead of the 2027 elections. Kano State Commissioner for Information Ibrahim Waya says Deputy Governor Aminu Garzo should step down after refusing to defect with Governor Abba Kabir to the APC. He argued that governance requires political alignment and said it would be improper for a deputy who no longer shares the governor's platform to remain in key decision-making meetings.
All right, some of today's latest political developments there in a wrap for you. Well, to set the conversation in motion, let's have a listen, because Mr. Peter Obi was in Abuja for the upcoming council elections as he campaigns for the ADC candidate in Abuja, and all the others who are supporting the candidates of the ADC, I beg your pardon, in the upcoming council elections this coming February. He had time to talk to the press about some of these concerns that have been raised, especially talking about the tensions within the ADC, the campaign ahead, as well as his respect for some of the gladiators within the ADC. So let's have a listen with regards to what he had to say, as well as the national coordinator, Dr. Tanko, who had a lot to say about some of these concerns that have come to light regarding the tensions within the ADC. Have a listen.
Let me tell you, most of the things you hear, criminals that are not obedient people. You don't see anybody who is calling anybody bad name. We are not asking for division. I personally do not in any way. You've never seen me call anybody bad name or anything. We are in ADC. We respect everybody who is in ADC. We can say, oh, we want to be this or want to be that. But as for calling people bad name, we are not part of it. I don't subscribe to it, and I'm not part of it. The people I met there, from the party chairman, is my very dear elder brother. People like Atiku are my leader, my respected elder brother. Amechi He's my brother. We're very close. And so is El Rufai. Name them, all of them that are there. We're the same thing. You have Lely Moke, you have Governor Fatai, Oyegunu is our elder brother, Aribo Shola, these are my colleagues. So I cannot say anything bad about them. And those who are following me, I assure you, will not say anything bad about them. But you have some elements that are trying to introduce that in order to see if they can hurt the P2B brand. We are talking to everybody. That is not what we should be doing in politics. Let's talk about out-of-school children. Let's talk about hungry Nigerians. Let's talk about unemployed Nigerians. Let's talk about insecurity. Our people are being kidnapped, 150, in a church, in a mosque, in everything. That should be our preoccupation.
You know, in politics, you will have divergence view and interests. Your ability to bring them together and make them see reason into the pathway is the most important thing. And I believe His Excellency, Mr. Peter Obi, will do justice to that. It is expected that all Obedients should come together and rally around, because we need to win this election for Dr. Mo, the Obidient Movement, and then the ADC. So all of us must be seen to be working together under one umbrella. If there are differences, we'll call ourselves as brothers and sisters and settle the differences and negotiate to ensure that we give full support to the candidate that His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi is supporting. That was the reason why we've been crying long before now that His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi is the person that they are targeting, because they want to make sure that he does not have a ticket to run. But I can say there's a lot of political parties, but here Mr. Peter Obi, as a Democrat and a collective person, is interested in a larger entity, and so he has moved into a group of people cut across the Federal Republic of Nigeria because of the interest of Nigerian people. So that shows that he's not a selfish person. And so they have decided to bring back the Labour Party. All well and good. Don't be surprised. The Labour Party may also be in the coalition, because this is just a coalition of individuals. There may still be a coalition of political parties. The Otto Nwankwo, those who lost their life at NSAS, those who lost their life in the struggle for democracy, making sure that Nigeria is a very good society that all of us can be happy about. That is the core energy of the Obidient Movement. All the Obidient Movement is saying is that we need good governance in this country. And we are not dilly-dallying about it. It's a quest and it's a demand for us. So anybody who wants to take over power from the existing situation where hunger, decay in the system, no lack of respect, insecurity, should use the energy of the Obidient Movement. We are there for everybody to take. If you are interested in winning election, this is no time for you to be looking down on the Obidient Movement. You should use the strength of the Obidient Movement to win elections. These are youths. These are young technocrats. These are determined individuals. These are people who have stood firm that say, look, we want to change the narrative in this country. And so therefore, if that energy is what is going to propel us into winning, I think it's supposed to be a plus. So anybody who believe in a new Nigeria, that want to change in Nigeria, the Obidient Movement is there for you to use as an energy to win the election. So therefore, we should leverage on the energy of the Obidient Movement to win this election. And don't forget, they are everywhere, including the presidency.
Dr. Yunus Tanko there making the final point that Obedients are everywhere, including the presidency. But before his point, the man at the center of the conversation, Mr. Peter Obi, speaking about need for unity, collaboration within the fold of the ADC, alluding to how the toxic atmosphere that has been making the rounds of late cannot be associated with the Obedients Movement. He said it's all part of a move to demarket the Peter Obi brand. Well, let's talk to someone who understands the Peter Obi brand, who is campaigning for the Peter Obi brand, a chieftain of the Obedients Movement, Dapo Adaramewa, joining us virtually from Lagos. Mr. Dapo, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate you very much for joining us on Daily Politics. Your quick thoughts on whether or not the Obedients are just simply misunderstood in the ADC, because there seems to be a running theme. This is not the first time we're hearing about some sort of dissatisfaction in the ADC concerning the Obedients. What do you think is playing out here?
To be honest, thank you very much for, firstly, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Now, we've had this ongoing issue in the Obidient movement where there have been all sorts of attempts to paint us in a certain color, to depict the average obedient as somebody who, is, in fact, I don't want to get into, we all know the stereotype that they're trying to push, but we know that that's a lie, right? We do have people who are online on Twitter insulting people. That's not new. Social media is an environment where people often feel free to, say whatever comes to their mind. But those people do not represent the Obidients Movement. Like His Excellency Peter Obi already said, he's not a man who has ever insulted anybody. And now we are forming a coalition. Only a naive child will think that it is possible to displace this government outside of a united effort. Only somebody who does not love Nigeria would hamper or impede the attempts to form a coalition that will help deliver Nigeria from the onslaught of APC, right? So these people do not represent the Obidient Movement in any way, and we can all disregard them. The Obidient Movement is one centered around our belief that Nigeria can change, that we deserve a better country, that all the things that we are seeing happen around us, that we are not ignorant. We know that we are being cheated. We know that we are being lied to. And Nigerians have just rallied around His Excellency Peter Obi as an embodiment for our own personal beliefs. And so that's the main issue here.
Mr. Dapo, are you still there?
Yes. Did you hear me?
Right, okay. I thought I lost the connection there for a moment. The next question is about what people are reading into this phrase that has become the key line of discussion, Obi or nothing. And I've seen a lot of obedience that have been identified, key figures within the movement re-echo the same sentiment. And my question to you is this an ultimatum or a threat when you say Obi or nothing?
I think it's people just declaring their preferred candidate. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. People are just expressing their passion and their belief that Obi is the candidate to help Nigeria at this point. He stands heads and shoulders above the rest and is a beacon for hope. So there's nothing wrong with it particularly. It's just people rallying around who they believe in. The party will have its primaries. The primaries will be fair and transparent for all Nigerians to see. And I believe that the best candidate will win that primary and will go on to be the next president of Nigeria. And that person is Peter Obi.
Yeah, but how do you explain the or nothing part? How do you explain that to Nigerians? What does we understand the Obi part. What about the other part, or nothing? What does that mean?
See, it's just an expression, right? I don't think, nothing would imply that it either Obi is president or nobody is president. And I know nobody is ridiculous enough to think that. Obviously, there will be a president of Nigeria. I think people are just saying that they stand by Obi and they will support him. So what they are trying to say is that come the primaries, once they are given a right to express themselves, they will express themselves and stand behind Obi, or they will not stand behind any other person at the primaries level. That's particularly what people are saying.
So it will be wrong to assume that if Peter Obi doesn't get the ticket, the Obedients will not take part in the elections, or the ADC cannot count on their support in 2027.
People will take part in the elections regardless. The elections is about the future of Nigeria. A number of people believe Peter Obi is the best candidate. I mean, given his track record, he definitely is the one candidate that we can all stand by and say, okay, this is a principled man. This is a man with integrity. This is a person who can give us a different style of politics. Because we've had a lot of the same for the past decades, and it's about time for a change. So nobody is saying that, well, obviously, I can't speak on behalf of every single person who stands by Obi, Some people might feel that, they would rather not take part in the election, or they would rather not vote if their chosen candidate does not come forward. But again, we're getting into the realm of speculation here. And so why bother myself and why, stress myself about what if? The focus right now is that we believe that Obi is the best candidate. And let's rally around and support him. Let's rally around and support the coalition of the ADC, of which Peter Gregory Obi is a member. And bearing in mind, Atiku has his own supporters, so do many other people in the party. There's something that I said in a different interview where I told people that the idea of big names being in one party is not new. The first party to show us that it was possible, in fact, was the APC. The APC was a coalition of big names, and they unified behind one candidate. They picked the candidate at the time was the most marketable candidate. Let us not lie to ourselves. They picked their most marketable candidate. And I believe the ADC will do exactly the same thing. Pick the most marketable candidate, the one candidate that people trust and have faith in, and then we all stand behind His Excellency Peter Obi, and we push him forward to the President of Nigeria.
And is your leader, your principal, the man you are advocating, being 100% honest when he says, listen, the people who are claiming to be Obedients, making all these disparaging comments about other political figures within the ADC are not people that are aligned with the Obidient movement? Is that the honest truth? Because we have seen some well-recognized Obedients say some nasty things about people on the other side that they feel are trying to take the shine away from Mr. Peter Obi.
I think he's 100%. It's a fact. It's not a question of if he's being, if he's telling the truth. And it's just a fact that anybody who has, we're talking about a movement in the multitude of millions, right? Any member of that movement can speak on any subject matter. Does not mean that they are now representative of that. But that's why in every party, in every movement, we have people who are designated leaders among us. So people saying or insulting, it's uncharacteristic. We need to look at the man that we're talking about today. In fact, think about it from the perspective of even religion. We have members of the different religious groups who act and behave in ways which we know are not aligned with the core values of that faith, but yet they claim to be members of that faith. In the same way, we have people who are not aligned to the beliefs and the attitudes of His Excellency Peter Gregory, who are touting these different ideologies and behaviors, which are just absurd. So he's 100% accurate in saying these people are not representative of the Obidient movement. It is not a divisive moment right now. It is a uniting moment. And one thing Nigerians need to know is that the media is a very confusing environment, and it's used to shape the minds of people. So this ideology, this thing that is being marketed out there, that there's a lot of rancor, I would advise Nigerians to ignore that. Focus on the main thing, because who said who, what about who on Twitter does not affect how much tomato is in the market. That is what we should focus ourselves on. Who is going to develop this nation? How can we save our country? How can we make it that I read a fact, I don't know how accurate it is, that over 90% of Nigerians earn less than 200,000 naira a month. That is shameful. That is our priority now. The national grid has just come back online. That is our priority as Nigerians. We're not bothered about extremists on either side, whether it's on the Atiku side, the Obidient side, who are touting disrespectful things. That's not the focus here. The focus here is uniting around the desire to see things change in this country.
Well, Mr. Dapo, do you also acknowledge the existential threat that this tension poses to the coalition? That this tension, if at all not addressed, could sink the coalition before the ship sails in 2027?
Absolutely not. There is no threat to the coalition. Definitely not from inside, right? These are just things that they happen, and they can largely be ignored. His Excellency Peter Gregory has spoken, Atiku has spoken, so have other leaders within the APC that have spoken. So we can put this idea to bed. There is no threat to the coalition, there is no threat to the movement. There is no threat. Because the only threat to Nigerians right now is coming from outside. It's coming from the way the government is being run. It's coming from the tax that was illegally signed, or lots of barbaric things that are happening in the government today. That's the only threat that there is. Right now, the coalition is solid. We're going through normal, these are normal things. I have siblings, and we don't always agree on everything. Sometimes we bicker back and forth, but that's not a big thing. When we go outside, when we face the world as a united front. So this bickering, this little bit of talk, it will subside. The believers in the Obidient Movement, the believers in a new Nigeria just need to calm down, understand that this is part of the process, but we must stay united and go through it.
I mean, I guess you're being optimistic about it. I mean, you pointed it out. Atiku has spoken about it. The ADC has put out a statement about it. The Obidient Movement has put out a statement about it. Mr. Peter Obi just spoke about it recently. And you get the sense that it's not something that can be ignored. Yes, there is a very good chance that people are trying to embellish or exaggerate how big of an issue it is. But then again, this is politics, isn't it? But talk to me then about what some have considered an interesting case study. We had Barrister Yusuf on the platform yesterday, and he talked about how Mr. Peter Obi is a beneficiary of the Obidients Movement, but he's not in charge of the Obidient Movement. He cannot call them to order. And in fact, alluding to how in the build-up to 2023, he's had cause to try to rein in some of the commentary, some of the rhetoric from his followers and supporters. Is that a fair assessment to say that Mr. Peter Obi is the arrowhead of the Obedience Movement, but he doesn't necessarily call the shots with regards to the movement itself?
I think that is extremely wrong. That is, in fact, it lacks basis in a basic reality, that assessment. Why do I say so? Now let's look at it. Right? What is the Obedience Movement? In the last election, garnered, I think, almost 6 million votes plus. Now let's look at how many people didn't leave their house to vote. Let's just say, give it modest estimates, we have about maybe 10 to 15 million Nigerians who passionately believe, who are part of the movement, right? Peter Obi is not, and the thing is, again, Nigerians might be used to the dictatorial antics that we've seen in previous presidents, but he's a Democrat. He's not going to enforce his will on 15 plus million people. That's not how it works. And even if he wanted to, there's no way in which he can tell everybody what to say. But beyond that, he's not the kind of person who will do that. He tells people what is right, what is wrong, what an adult decides to do thereafter. That's up to them. What they decide to say, that's up to them. Now, I don't know what party that individual supported, but I could take any of his statements, then extrapolate it and say it represents his own leader or his own desired candidate. It's it's people creating mountains out of molehills, right? His Excellency Peter Obi is the face of the movement, but again, it's a movement that simply found a home. And I don't think people understand this, right? It did not start with Peter Obi. The sentiment had been in Nigerians a long time, that we know that people are taking us for a ride. They are cheating us, they are stealing from us. We finally found somebody who has the integrity and embodies the hope that we have for our country. And we found that in Obi. So it is in a way larger than him, but embodied in him, right? So this is a movement for the whole of Nigeria, right? And so I would completely disregard the ideology that it does not have some kind of God-level draconian control over the lips and the tongues of almost 15 million people who believe in the new Nigeria. That's just ridiculous. Nobody, it's not a God. He cannot tell it. He cannot hold the tongue of everybody. So let's focus on the people who are representative of His Excellency. If you look at the people like myself, people like Dr. Tanko, people who have a designated role in the party, a designated role in the movement, you will see that we all told the same line. And that speaks volumes to what the movement is about.
And how convenient or comfortable is this arrangement with the coalition, with the ADC itself? Because there have been question marks about whether the Obidient Movement is able to coalesce. Obidient Movement by design, as seen in the last election cycle, is anti-establishment because there is a strong sense that the Obidient Movement believes the establishment is a part of the problem, is the one that is unable to deliver on the dividends of democracy, as the case may be. So, how open-minded are you to work with people that you might consider a part of the problem who are in the ADC right now?
Well, firstly, I would like to start by correcting one thing. The Obidient Movement is not anti-establishment. It is anti-corrupt and perversions of the current establishment. At no point has the movement not supported an establishment in the sense of a functioning government or structures that help run the country. What people are opposed to is a situation where, take for example, the Senate and the House of Rep passes a bill and somebody illegally changes it and then signs it into law. Those are the kind of things that we are anti. We are anti-draconian leaders that have no soul, right? And so people we are united behind Peter Obi. I just want to, could you refresh that question again? Sorry, I honed in on that last part because it was just so much for me. Could you rephrase that question again? So
at the heart of the question is, there are a lot of people that the Obidient Movement campaigned against. There are a lot of people who do not necessarily check the list, or perhaps people the Obidient Movement would consider partners in progress who are in the ADC right now, that the Obidient Movement campaigned against in 2023, but are right now aligned with the coalition movement itself. How comfortable is that arrangement? Or is there a situation where it's oil and water not being able to mix?
I think a lot of these people have changed their mind. A lot of these people, there's a way when the problem does not touch home, you might not fully understand. A lot of these people now have experienced what the bad governance is like because they're no longer at the center of it. Right? They've experienced what it means to have a government completely disregard its people and affect their livelihood. We've all been affected by the fuel price hike. We've all been affected by the dollar, the fall in the value of the naira. So a lot of people have kind of, in a way, they've cleared, their eyes have become clearer. And that's why people have now come to join the ADC, right? In the hopes that they can correct their past mistakes. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? We're not going to, Peter Obi cannot run the entire Nigeria by himself. So we still have to work with people who have seen the light, whether they saw that originally or situation has made them see the light. Or we have to work with people who believe in a new Nigeria, and we work together going forward. So long as, and the key thing is that we will stay on course. We're not, by God's grace, when we become the government of Nigeria, we're not the kind of government that will go in and lose focus. No, we will stay on course, and we'll ensure the people that are working with us are continuously aligned with our vision of bringing change to Nigerians.
And talk to me about the recent development, which is something that had to do with the formation of the committee that would work on the manifesto of the ADC. And in what appears to be a gaffe, we have an individual who says, listen, I wasn't even consulted, but I just saw my name on that list. It does look that there are some missteps with the movement itself, the coalition itself, on the platform of the ADC. How well situated would you say the Obidient Movement is? Because a couple of months ago, there were some concerns that have been expressed that the Obedients are in the periphery, on the periphery of the coalition movement itself. This was before Mr. Peter Obi made his declaration to join in December of 2025. How comfortably seated are Obedients in the ADC, and what are your thoughts about what the ADC is trying to do to reform the party itself?
The Obidient Movement now has become one with the party, right? in the sense that we have taken up this platform as a means for us to achieve our goal. And so this idea of issues of how well are we seated, we are in the coalition along with other members of the coalition. But it's one united team. It's like if my football friends, people who watch football will know that once a player is sold to a different party or moves to a different party, it becomes part of that team. They wear the same jersey and they align and they drive after the same goal. Now, in regards to people saying they were not consulted, these are minor issues. I think what we need to focus on is waiting until we see that manifesto, because I am very convinced that Nigerians will be amazed as to its content. We're talking about something that will transform this nation beyond what anybody has ever imagined. And that's what we're going to get from the APC. We are reforming the party internally. We're drafting our manifesto. We are creating what is going to be the deliverance of Nigeria, right? 10 years from now, 8 years from now, when Nigerians look back at the moment that they voted in the ADC, it will be one of the greatest achievements. And we, who have the privilege of being alive during this era, will be very grateful.
Now, you ask people who have observed Nigerian elections, especially in the Fourth Republic, they say, listen, one thing the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar is very good at is capitalizing on his political network to put up a very good fight in the primaries. Yes, he was defeated in the build-up to the 2015 election by the APC, which pretty much rallied its resources around President Muhammadu Buhari, late President Muhammadu Buhari. But on this one, most people you speak to who are not Obedients per se, but people who are well aware of Nigeria's political history, they will say that, listen, there is no world where Peter Obi beats Atiku in a primary election, especially on the platform of the ADC. What do you say to those who think that it's a no-brainer that if Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi go to the primaries, there can be only one winner, and it's not going to be Peter Obi?
I would say this. When I first aligned with His Excellency Peter Obi, it was long before, people saw hope in the party. When the LP was the chosen platform, long before anybody believed in it, right? We were there. And at that time, conversations like this happened. They might not have happened on TV, but it happened in my living room with my family members, who sat me down and said, are you sure? Is there any hope? Do you believe? Is there any world? And guess what? We showed them, because had it not been for the mental gymnastics that INEC pulled, had those election results been transmitted, we all know what would have happened, right? So this idea that people are saying, oh, this cannot happen, wait and see. But never lose hope. And I would say that all the stakeholders, all the people who truly believe in Nigeria should still engage, because one of the biggest worries is the fact that people feel like, well, the situation is hopeless, so why try? No situation is too hopeless to try. So Nigerians need to just unite, and we will be amazed what will happen. The ADC is not PDP. The ADC is not APC. There will be no, shall we say, backhanded deals during our primaries. It will be open for all to see, and Nigerians will see that the same way we run the party, the same way we run the country, with transparency, integrity, and a hope and a commitment to values and a new Nigeria.
Are you saying in a fair fight, you don't see Peter Obi losing? Is that what you're saying?
100%. I don't see Peter Obi losing in the primaries in a fair fight. Beyond that, I don't see how the coalition can lose in a fair fight. You see, Nigerians are in a worse way than they were during the last election. And the two key candidates that are now in the ADC got almost double the votes that the current president got. So in a fair fight, But I don't want to lie to Nigerians and tell them that we're going into a fair fight. That would not be true. We all saw what they did during the past elections. We also what's happened in previous parties during their primaries. We are prepared for any type of fight that they want to throw. And we will be committed to transparency and ensuring that good governance happens.
Right. Talk to me about the Labour Party experience, because in hindsight, you realize that there were a couple of missteps. Look at the fallout with the Abure-led leadership of the Labour Party, which has become quite a chaotic situation that might have played a significant role in Mr. Peter Obi dumping the party to now decide to work with the ADC in 2027. What are some of the pitfalls that you believe this movement of yours can avoid while working with the ADC? Because the ADC leadership is the one calling the shots, and the Obidient Movement is, albeit an important variable for the ADC, is not necessarily one that is going to determine how the ADC functions as a political party. Do you believe that you've learned your lesson with the Labour Party experience, that you can avoid making the same mistake in the ADC?
I don't see any particular mistakes that were made in the Labour Party at all, actually. I see points of learning. I see ways in which we can adapt, but I don't see His Excellency having made any mistakes in the party. I think we joined the party. We took the party to become well, at least on paper, the get the third highest amount of votes. We transformed an obscure party into a national party, right? I see success all around. And we take that formula of success, we combine it with an even more promising platform, with stronger allies in the ADC. And all I see ahead is success, regardless of the bumpy ride.
And let's talk about what is playing out in Nigerian politics today. You see how shaky things are with most of the opposition political parties, at least the ones that are big enough for Nigerians to take note of. And you see this dominance of the APC. And you talk about how the issues will determine what the voters will do on election day. How concerned are you, if there's any concern at all, about how big the APC is becoming and how unstable, on the other hand, opposition political parties are becoming with regards to the litigations, the dysfunction that has characterized their operations over the last 2 years?
Well, I don't believe these things are happening in a vacuum. I think we all see that there seems to be some level of machination happening to cause all of this. But that will not affect the outcome of this coming election. Right? Now, granted, the APC has grown into a behemoth in many ways, worryingly so, right? Because our democracy all of a sudden looks very frail. I think recently the government admitted that there was a coup attempt, although we have known that it happened a long time. So all of a sudden we're starting to see threats to our democracy, and it's a worrying time. I know one thing for sure, that the bulk of Nigerians who are going to be at home watching this, the bulk of Nigerians I have met in our engagement with Nigerians, do not want APC to continue. The bulk of Nigerians want change. They want governance that will deliver for them. The bulk of Nigerians are saddened by the fact that countries that are smaller than Lagos State seem to have stronger currency than we do as a nation. That we're the most populous country on this continent, but yet we still have, I think we're the 5th largest economy. People are tired of this, right? People want change. And I would only encourage people to not believe the lie that it is hopeless. It is as once upon a time, we were a small country colonized by a big British Empire. But the people did not give up hope. The people fought against what was a behemoth at the time. and they delivered us our nation Nigeria. APC, compared to that, is very small, right? So people need to leave their houses, people need to engage with the process, and we will deliver this country. So no matter, even if they get 36 out of 36 state governors as APC members, that will not change the outcome of the presidential election if Nigerians commit themselves to getting something different. I've said it before. There are some elections that are too big to rig. When the mass of people pour out into their polling areas, they vote in numbers unseen before. It is too big to rig. How will you do it? It's impossible, except you want to declare yourself a dictator. That's the only way you can then hold down the will of the people. But the will of the people must be consistent, it must be driven, and it must be loud. And that is what I will encourage all Nigerians to look forward to next election.
Right, just circling back to the Obi or nothing phrase, which is becoming somewhat of a phenomenon, backdropping issues within the ADC. How many people have you seen, Mr. Dapo, in the ADC that leads you to believe that, listen, if you have to point out a couple of individuals who you think share the same philosophy, understanding of what is at stake, that if at all you have to deal with worst case scenario for you, that is not Peter Obi on the ticket, do you believe that there are other individuals that represent what Mr. Peter Obi stands for and that can actually become the arrowhead of the Obidient movement and that can deliver on your expectations on election day within the ADC? Do you think there are individuals that could represent that?
100%. There are lots of people in the ADC movement as a whole who believe in the same things as His Excellency does. But my question would be, why would I go with somebody who shares the beliefs of a person as opposed to the person himself? So I believe that Peter Obi is the most, shall we say, the most driven and the most unique candidate that we've had in a generation. And so I believe he should be the candidate for the APC. And what happens after the primaries, we're all going to see. But regardless, one thing I know for certain is that given the level at which APC has placed itself, you know, all the dealings that they've had to get so many of the opposition leaders, the opposition governors to change over to the party, I can tell you for free that the only way that the election is going to be won by any other party is through a united front. And beyond even just because elections is still a bit further out. I think what we are looking forward to at this point now is not just the Peter Obi, being in ADC coalition. We're talking about coalition of all opposition parties folding into one and presenting a united front. I think people need to focus their attention on that, because I can tell you for free that is being worked out as we speak.
Every Obidient I talk to on this platform always suggest or imply that you have Obedients all over the country, in every institution, in every political movement. And as we heard in that clip from Dr. Tanko, he says there are Obedients in the presidency itself. Is that your way of trying to unsettle people in other political parties, to insinuate that you have sleeper agents? What is the point exactly of having people who are not bold enough to stand and to be seen as they truly are?
It comes down to what I discussed earlier, the sense that being an Obedient it comes down to the shared value. One, that Nigerians deserve better. Two, that it is possible for a fair, ethical, caring government to exist in this country. Other countries have done it, right? So people who share those values, we call them Obedients. And yes, we do have Obedients everywhere. I have friends who are in other political parties who we regularly discuss about Obi. We regularly discuss about the Obidient Movement. Whatever their reason is for not wanting to come out and stand out and say, I am an obedient, we're not going to judge them. That's not what this party is about. That's not what this movement is about. We're not going to judge them. We know that their hearts and minds are with us, right? And they will work with the party when the time comes. So it's not a shall we say, not a thing to unsettle people. It's just a fact. It's not, if anybody feels unsettled by that truth, then that's their problem, not any kind of strategy or movement. It's just a fact that Nigerians, home and abroad, are committed to changing this country. And the faith has not died. The hope has not died. We believe that the dividends of democracy will come to us. I mean, good God, almost 70 years of recycling the same old unfortunate leaders. Most of them have been. It's about time we give it a change and go for something different.
All right. Just before we go, we're completely out of time. You take a look at the electoral map and the dominance by political parties across the 6 geopolitical zones in the country. You go to the south especially, you realize in the southeast, no PDP, south, no PDP, southwest, one PDP, a governor who is on his way out. And you come to the north. The PDP is a dying political force. They would disagree, but the map tells a different story. How much of an inroad do you think the ADC can make? Looking at how it doesn't have any sort of significance on the electoral map as it is right now. If you have to briefly put it in a couple of sentences, how realistic are the chances of the ADC in 2027?
Very, very realistic, because it all boils down to one thing, right? It boils down to drumming up hope in the people and getting them to come out and vote for you, right? Whether or not, we've seen it before, right? Incumbents have lost the presidency. Incredible things have happened in this country, right? And we know that resistance is there, manipulation is there, we know all these things exist. But the hope of the ADC, and thus the hope of a new Nigeria, rests in the hearts and the minds and the PVCs of every Nigerian as well. And ultimately, the Nigerian people are fed up. And so they will do the right thing, and they will bring in something new, they'll bring in a new government, and they will elect Obi as the president of Nigeria.
All right, the election is a year plus away, but it does feel like it's just around the corner. Mr. Dapo Adaramewa, thank you so much for the analysis. I appreciate you very much for joining us on Daily Politics this evening.
Thank you very much.
And that is a wrap on tonight's edition of the program. We'll be back tomorrow live at 8 p.m. exclusive as always on Trust TV. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. From myself and the rest of the team, thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon.